The long-awaited 2021 US Open has arrived, and despite Fedor not being present, there are many interesting storylines. Will Novak Djokovic be able to claim his historic calendar year Grand Slam, or can a promising youngster stop number 21 to get there first? I'll break down their draw, go over the juicy first-round matches and projected clashes, then give my picks and predictions here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today. Top seed Novak Djokovic will play Holger Rune, and afterwards is projected to play Jan-Lennard Struff in round 2, David Goffin in round 3, Alex de Minaur in the round of 16, Berrettini in the quarters, Zverev in the semis, then Daniil Medvedev in the final. Looking at Djokovic's draw, the opening round against young Dane Holger Rune will be interesting, as the 18-year-old qualifier has been tearing it up on the Challenger Tour this year and is riding a 13-match win streak. Despite having the advantage of training with Novak in Monte Carlo, the world number one will surely be too much for Rune to handle. Jan-Lennard Struff is a probable second-round opponent for Novak. The German is a very solid player but has lost pretty handily to Novak their past few matches, so I don't see any reason for an upset alert. Even though Djokovic is projected to face Goffin in round 3, I'm pretty sure that he'll instead meet Ken Nishikori, and if not him, Mackie McDonald. Now, if K is on, he might be able to challenge Novak a bit, but the Japanese man has been struggling with a shoulder injury, which forced him out of Toronto and Cincinnati, so I think Novak will prevail without too much fanfare. In the fourth round, Djokovic could play seeds Aslan Karatsev or Alex de Minaur. Karatsev, though, has been struggling a bit since reaching the finals in Serbia in April. He does have a good draw here in my opinion, so he can play his way into form and perhaps have another impressive slam run. 14 seed Alex de Minaur has a difficult draw, potentially playing two Americans back-to-back in Fritz and Brooksby. I'll pick Fritz to come through and get the upset, as Alex is pretty low on confidence. Brooksby, who showed out in DC, could do something too, as Fritz honestly isn't in form either. Regardless, I'll have Karatsev advance to face Novak in the round of 16 and pick the Serb to advance to the quarters. The next session is Berrettini's, and at the top is 10th seed Hubert Hurkacz. I'll have Hubie come through to the fourth round because I've been impressed with how he's played the past few months. Fucsovics and Sonego might be some roadblocks for him, but I think that the pole will still be fine. Now with Mateo, I think his section is pretty straightforward on paper, but he might have to play Ilya Ivashka in the third round, who looked very good in Winston-Salem. I think the North Carolina champ will upset both Fognini and Berrettini, but fall to Hurkacz. I think the North Carolina champ will upset both Fognini and Berrettini, but fall to Hurkacz. I know this might seem extreme, but the Italian is a bit less prepared in terms of matches, just coming back from that thigh injury sustained at Wimbledon. Fourth seed Zverev, who's currently accused of domestic abuse by girlfriend Olya Sharipova, will start against Sam Querrey. He's then projected to play Ramos Vinolas in the second, Alexander Bublik in the third, Jannik Sinner in the fourth, Shapovalov in the quarters, Djokovic in the semis, and in the final Medvedev. Zverev will open against American Querrey, who did reach the quarters in New York 4 years ago. He's down bad at the moment and hasn't won a single match since Wimbledon. Alex, I think, should be fine in the first week, although Bublik could provide some stern challenges. Moving down, Monfils and Sinner on a collision course to meet in the fourth round, which I predict will happen. Should they meet, I'll pick Sinner to narrowly win, despite Monfils starting to have his resurgence. I definitely think that Sinner can upset Zverev if they meet in the round of 16, as the young Italian did the same thing during last year's French Open. However, I think Alex has too much confidence at the moment to falter to Jannik once more here. Carreño Busta is in Shapovalov's section, and he has a tricky draw, potentially playing the talented young American Korda in round 2. Korda has a difficult first round though against Basilashvili, who is currently dealing with abuse allegations as well. Regardless, I do feel that the Spaniard will be too steady for either opponent, and I pick him to reach the third. There he could meet 22nd seed Riley Opelka, who might play Lorenzo Musetti in the second round. I think Opelka will come through to meet Carreño Busta. I believe Opelka can surely take out Carreño Busta, but the Spaniard excels in New York, being a 2-time semifinalist, so I'll pick him to advance to another second week. Looking down, Khachanov-Harris will be a very interesting match because both seem to be playing very well at the moment. I'll go with the more experienced Russian there to pull through. 7th seed Shapovalov, I think, should come through his first 2 matches, but I do have him lose to Khachanov because the Canadian has been struggling immensely since the Wimbledon semifinals, going on a 4-match losing streak since then. Those missed opportunities against Novak clearly impacted him, and I just don't think that he has the confidence to go deep here. Khachanov is my pick to come through this entire section, by the way. Going down to the bottom half, Cincy finalist Rublev will probably play Francis Tiafoe in the third round, despite Krajinovic being his projected opponent. Francis can pull off the upset, especially with the home crowd support behind him, but I think Rublev will be too solid there. Moving down, Bautista Agut and Ogier Aliassime might play each other, but the Spaniard has a popcorn match versus Nick Kyrgios. We know the Aussie wakes up for these bigger matches, and despite him not having much match play at the moment, I'll have him take the upset. I do have him playing Ogier Aliassime for the second consecutive slam third round, and once again, I pick Felix to advance. However, should he face Andre in the fourth round, I have the Russian pull through. Third seed Stefanos Tsitsipas will start against Andy Murray and could play Adrian Mannarino in the second round. Then he might meet Cam Norrie in the third, Christian Garin in the fourth, Rublev in the quarters, Medvedev in the semis, and Novak in the final. At the top of Steph's section, we have Christian Garin, but the Chilean isn't as effective on hard, so I instead have a Frenchman in either Humbert or Paire reach the fourth. Tsitsipas of course has that eye-opening opener against Murray, which the Greekman should still get through. He might play break Cam Norrie in the third, which could be tricky, but the 26th seed has a tough first rounder himself in Carlos Alcaraz. I still think Tsitsipas will get through both the third and fourth round, regardless of who he plays. The next section is Rudes, and it's probably the weakest section out of the 8. Casper has done better on hard courts recently, and I think that he has a favorable draw to reach the second week. Moving down, served by John Isner will play compatriot Brandon Nakashima for a rematch of the Atlanta final. I will pick John to get through that match and reach the fourth round, beating Schwartzman in the process. I think John will get by Ruud and make the last 8 here as well, as he's been solid all US Open series. 2019 finalist Daniil Medvedev will play Rashad Gasquet in the opening round, followed by potentially Dominik Koepfer. In the third round, he might face Marin Cilic, followed by Grigor Dimitrov in the fourth, Ruud in the quarters, Tsitsipas in the semis, then Djokovic in the final. I think Daniil will be pretty pleased with this section. Dimitrov, his biggest opposition on paper here, succumbed to him in Cincy a week ago in straights. 2014 US Open finalist Marin Cilic I think is Daniil's biggest threat here, as he surely has the game to take out the Russian, having a 2-sets-to-love advantage over the second seed at Wimbledon. However, Daniil stormed back to claim that match, and I think ultimately the outcome here would be the same. For my predictions, I have Djokovic and Zverev in the semifinals with Novak reaching the final, then Tsitsipas and Medvedev with Daniil advancing to the championship. Then in the final, I pick Medvedev to take it all. There are really a lot of question marks surrounding Novak. Has he fully recovered from the taxing Olympic Games? Does he have enough match reps after skipping the US Open Series entirely? Then most importantly, how will he handle by far the most crucial tournament of his career with so much on the line? I think like with Serena in 2015, this would be extremely stressful for Novak, and I think that should he meet Hurkacz in the quarters, the Pole has a good shot at getting the upset. I do think Djokovic will prevail there and in the semis face Zverev. I did originally have Zverev reach the finals because of the stress I'd assume Novak would be under here. However, I ultimately picked Djokovic to make the final stage, as although Zverev is on his hot streak currently, he hasn't yet beat a top 10 player in a slam, as specified as a different animal. Plus, I'm sure revenge will be on Novak's mind from the Olympic semifinals. I think Tsitsipas and Medvedev are very good picks for the other semifinals, as both have been very strong this summer. I did go ahead and pick Daniil because he's much more comfortable in Flushing than Tsitsipas, Steph never reaching the second week here. I do believe Daniil has the game to win his first slam title, as evident with his very good hardcourt season thus far. I think that this will be his best opportunity at beating Novak in a major final, because there will be a lot riding on it. Daniil did have that little rope up in Cincinnati, but I'm sure he'll be fully motivated to avenge that semi-final loss with a long-awaited title in New York. Now, previews aside, here are my top first-round popcorn matches. So the men on the bottom half will kick off action on Monday. On Arthur Ashe, Tsitsipas and Medvedev star, and on Armstrong, Isner and Kyrgios are the main headliners for the men. That's all for this tournament preview, and let me know what you think about the draw and my predictions in the comment section below. Do you think Medvedev and Djokovic are solid picks? If not, who do you think would be in the finals? Also, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever we post new content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time here on Grand Slam Tennis News Today.